Hey everyone, I hope you're well. I recently had a really good game with snipers in Apex Legends and I didn't record it live, so I thought I'd do some analysis of the game and showcase what you need to know about how to be good with snipers and hitting your shots. I'll also offer some tips on general positioning and how to position yourself, and just as the gameplay goes on I'll explain my thought processes, what's happening and why we're hitting shots and staying alive. So hopefully you'll learn a thing or two by watching this video, so let's get into it. So the first thing I'd say is you need to practice more. Snipers are very strong, but just like say the Peacekeeper, they are one-hit wonders. You know, you need to be able to hit your shots. So the best thing you can do is get as many snipers as possible, and well, Sniper Ridge is a great place to start. These two loot bins here have guaranteed sniper spawns, so yeah, if you want to get snipers guaranteed, then that's a good place to spot. So here we are about to go into our first fight. Now what you'll notice here as we shoot this Octane is that one thing I always recommend doing is having cover to stick by. As you can see here, about half of my aim has this cover, right? So I always have cover. Now the other thing is always look out for little gaps in buildings, in cars, in terrain, because many people will think they're hiding whilst they're healing, and this is where you can usually get a good few cheeky kills. And it's something that, you know, always be on the lookout for little spots like this. Another thing is when you know somebody's about to come around a corner, just aim, pre-aim it, get ready and focus, you know. It's going to be like a split second where their pixels are going to be on your screen in some cases, like this Mirage here, and you need to be ready to press that fire button. So the best thing you can do is pre-aim a corner and then push once you've got the hit on it. And in this moment we're just going to get some L-star footage so we can talk a bit more about the snipers. One thing that's very important, and you'll see later, is to be confident with your aim but not overconfident. And by that I mean you should be using the snipers to get a good hit, and this is at any distance, even like point blank basically. But regardless of if you hit it or not, you need to switch to your other weapon after you've taken that shot, because otherwise you're just going to be sitting there missing shots whilst you could be dealing a lot of damage with something much more useful like the L-star in this instance. So yes, be confident to take shots up close, but don't be afraid to switch your weapon. You'll see here in this moment where I was being overconfident with the sniper. I take this first hit, but then I'm constantly trying to get that last hit. And luckily our team is there to back us up, but if they weren't, we would have died. You'll see later I adapt and realize that I need to stop being too overconfident. Another thing, and one of the reasons I love snipers, is that they provide essentially binoculars inside the scope. You know, you have the scope to scout out an area, and I highly recommend, if you are a sniper in the squad, use your scope to scout out an area before you push it every single time. Get into the habit of always doing that, because you can quickly scope in every single area to see if anybody's hiding, because a lot of times people are hiding, and you'll notice later we're constantly doing this to spot out players. Once again, you can see here how we've got a piece of cover to our right. It's always important to have that, because then you can step in and out of cover and you're very hard to hit. And as you saw there, the cover doesn't necessarily have to be right next to you, but as long as in your perspective the cover is taking about 30 to 50% of your screen, then you're always going to be able to go in and out of that cover. Their line of sight will be blocked when you go into that cover, so keep that in mind. Now here's one more tip you'll see in a second. If you want to hit those close range shots with a long range scope, I would suggest putting your sensitivity higher. Personally, I've found that once my sensitivity is higher, I'm doing a lot better with hitting those flicks up close, even with the biggest scopes, and I'm getting really good at that now, and I feel like with some practice you can do it too. And once again, if you miss that shot, just switch straight to your next weapon. Don't keep trying to fire with the sniper at that distance, because you're just going to keep missing and you'll get yourself killed. So yeah, try one shot, be confident with it, and then switch to your next weapon no matter what happens, because at the end of the day, tons of missed shots isn't going to go so well for you. In a minute we'll get into a fight, and once again you'll see how I'm using the sniper to kind of carefully assess the area. I'm watching through the scope, I'm looking at all the areas I'd expect people to be camping, all of the areas I might see people fighting. This is something that's just got to be drilled into you. You have to do this as many times as you can when you enter an area. and as we can see, nobody's really here. I'd be a bit more cautious until I move into the area. Then I can get somewhere higher, and then once again take another little scout around, see if we can spot anybody. In Apex Legends, I feel like playing a sniper is more than just hitting high damage shots. It's also about kind of surveying the area and knowing more about where enemies are. And of course, you can do that without a scope, but it's so much easier with a scope. So yeah, once again, it's one of those great benefits of having a sniper. Now, in this engagement, you'll see one more thing that's very important about sniping: positioning. If you're going to hit shots, then you need to be able to kind of play on that. For example, you take some damage down on a player. If you can't actually get to them safely to finish them off, then it's not going to work. So if you're in a position like that where crossing the road is dangerous, it's going to take some time, reposition with the sniper first, then get your shots down. And if it's just a situation where you can't really use your sniper, then just switch to your other weapon. You don't have to be sniping, you know. It's therefore hitting a high damage shot on a player so that you can actually push on that and get the player knocked and then the squad wiped easier. So obviously it's always going to work in your favor if you just sit at long range trying to get headshots and knock a player. You know, you're not going to be able to play off of that. So always think carefully about positioning. Think about where you are and how you're going to get to the enemies once you've knocked or damaged a player, because the most important thing is you need to be able to get to that player in time before they heal up or revive, otherwise the damage you've dealt is pointless. You'll see in much of these engagements, I'm not playing at really long distances with the longbow. I'm always trying to think about pushing ahead so that when I do get a good shot with the longbow, I can actually play on it. So pay attention to the rest of the fights in the game and pay note to my distance from the enemy and see that, you know, we're not sniping as you'd traditionally expect in a shooting game, you know. This isn't a game where we can get easy knocks of snipers. Players have a lot of health and they can heal up very quickly. One more thing I want to talk about whilst this fight goes on is that essentially sniping, it doesn't really matter what sniper you're using, it's more about how you use the sniper. And I'm going to say this one more time: if you get good shots on a player, you need to push on it, and if you're too far away, then you're not really using the sniper at an effective distance. So think carefully about how you can use snipers effectively. If you're playing in a team, it's a little bit more different. You can focus enemies better, you can communicate, and you can potentially actually kill players, not just knock them from a distance. But that's still quite challenging considering how knockdown shields are now. They're a lot harder to shoot around. So yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind. Any sniper is good as long as you know how to use it. That includes the triple take, the longbow, the sentinel, of course the scout, and yes, the Kraber. Now, even the Havoc and charge rifle are good choices if you use them correctly. So let's just summarize on what I've talked about in this video so that you can go away with some knowledge, quick knowledge that, you know, you can try yourself. Number one is to be confident with your shots, both long range and close range, but not overconfident. And by that I mean, take your shot, if you miss, switch to another weapon. If you hit, switch to another weapon. Don't try to keep holding down the aim and hitting your shots. It's not going to work out for you. The next thing is think carefully about positioning. Make sure you're at a distance where you can actually effectively engage on a player if you manage to do big damage against them. Otherwise, by the time you get there, they're going to be healed up or revived, and the damage you've dealt is going to mean very little. Snipers are very powerful, but one of the things you need to consider is being patient with your shots, and sometimes that just takes practice. So once again, you can go somewhere like Charge Rifle Ridge, Sniper Ridge, get a sniper at the start of the game, and just practice using the scopes at all distances. That includes close range, medium range, long range. Don't be afraid to zoom down scopes, even if it's a 10 times, you know. You'll make mistakes, you'll make misses, but the more you practice, the better you'll get, and that's obviously the most important thing you can take away. And another thing is just be patient, have fun, enjoy it. At the end of the day, Apex Legends is a very fast-paced game, very fast-paced battle royale, so just have fun with it. Don't always try to play as sweaty as you can, you know, obviously that's fun in itself, but if you want to try and get better with snipers, just accept that you're going to miss shots sometimes, and it's going to take some practice to get better. So if you miss your shots, don't beat yourself up, you know, it's going to take some time. Just know that each shot you miss is essentially a step towards being better. And if you really want to be a sniper, I'll end with, yes, I really do think that upping your sensitivity is a great choice, both for mouse and controller, so consider that. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you have any other tips for sniping for yourself, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to see them. I'll see you there. Cheerio!